All right, so we're working through a situation here with a property owner who has the other property owner on the deed was his brother, and his brother recently passed away. Now, the property was also formerly owned. There's another deed that came up with another sibling. And the challenge now is our closing attorneys are trying to figure out who actually owns the property. And one of the things they need to find out is how was the property bought? How was it deeded? And usually, generally, when there's in North Carolina, when there's property that is purchased, it's usually amongst two people or more. It's purchased usually in two ways: joint tenancy or tenancy in common. And shout out to attorney Willie Fennell, who helped me understand or at least have a little more clarity on joint tenancy and tenancy in common. My name is Courtney. I am host of the Life and Transitions Experts podcast. And here I try to bring as much information as I learn and as I experience helping folks through some big transitions in their life, particularly probate and when there's property involved and people are need to come up with some type of viable solution for their property. Quite often, I could be the cash buyer for that property, or I can help them figure out a way to either receive some equity from there so they can sometimes pay off debt, share inheritance, or sometimes they want to keep the property and I can help them come up with some solutions for that. But again, thanks to Willie Fennell because this is Attorney Fennell because I'm running into a situation where I'm trying to figure out who owns the property, and it all has to do with how the property was bought and deeded. So he gave me a lot of information yesterday in his time. And I must say, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a financial advisor, but again, I'm sharing my experience, and Attorney Fennell is not sharing legal advice either. He just was willing to share some of his thoughts and experience regarding these two things. And there's three key differences between joint tenancy and tenancy in common that we all should know, especially like me. I'm getting married. I'm getting married actually in 11 days. Yeah, something like that. 11 days, November 18th. And so my fiance and I need to understand that as you know, owning property, what happens when we actually get married and what happens in the state of North Carolina. So again, check with your attorneys when you're and with folks that basically is what I'm saying. So let's just go ahead and take a look. Okay. Okay. So joint tenancy. Am I on there? Okay. I think I have my screen up. All right. Awesome. So joint tenancy is like a form of co-ownership where two or more individuals have equal share of the property. And so once someone dies, that share automatically passes to the surviving joint tenants. That's one key thing we're going to talk about, the right of survivorship. And so there's really four elements that need to be in place at that time, from my understanding. And one is that folks had to have bought the property at the same time. Two, they both have to have the same their name on the title, and they also again have to have equal shares. So someone can't have more, or 70% own, another person owns 30%, and so on. And they both have to have the right to possess and live in the whole property together. So that's joint tenancy. I think I'm saying the right, tenancy. And tenancy in common is a co-ownership, but the distinction is you don't have to have the shares can be undivided. So someone can own 70%, someone can own 20%, another person can own 10%. Um, and there doesn't really care, it doesn't carry right of survivorship. So when someone does pass away, or at any point, the one of the tenants can sell their portion, their side of the mortgage that's owed. And yeah, it's a little more flexible in ownership arrangements, tenancy in common. But there may be reasons you want joint tenancy as well. So we're just sharing what the difference between those are. Here's three distinctions we said earlier, but right of survivorship is one very important one. So when someone passes away in joint tenancy, that the right of survivorship means that the other person automatically receives transfers receives that. And that's quite often what happens when a couple is together, unless they distinguish at the time of the purchase of the property whether it's going to be tenancy in common or joint tenancy. And so the shares will automatically transfer to the surviving joint tenant. Tenancy in common doesn't do this. Each tenant's interest will be distributed according to whether they have a will, an estate plan, or it's applicable to the laws within testacy and testacies. Attorney Eddie Harrell helped me with that word, but I always get it wrong. But in testacy law, so it can get complicated, and that's really what I'm dealing with now. I believe there wasn't a will involved, and I don't think they had joint um, tenancy. I think they had tenancy in common. So we're figuring out if there's actually three owners or 30 to 40 nephews and nieces and cousins who actually own this property. But we're going to figure it out. Um, Also, another key distinction is, as we said, the transfer of ownership. Joint tenancy restricts the individual owner. You have to get permission. You have to have consent from the other joint tenant to sell off their portion. Tenancy in common, however, you can transfer that asset without seeking permission from the other co-owners. And so it really has, all this has to do like with how ownership. What are your, I guess, privileges or rights as a owner? And then the ownership shares, we just mentioned it earlier. Joint tenancy, it's equal shares split amongst the folks equally. Joint tenancy in common, you can have shares based on whatever the agreement is, as long as legal to the laws of those lands. So those are really three key distinctions, right? Right of survivorship, the transfer of ownership, and ownership shares and all. I'm with Estate Pro Service. Would love to help in any way I can if you're looking to sell or purchase a property or just come up with some options that are viable for the property, particularly when they're in sticky situations like this. I've connected with the nationwide group of vetted estate professionals so we can get you to the right place if perhaps I'm not the right person for you. At any rate, just wanted to share that with you. Someone Facebook user said great information. Yeah, thank you, Willie Fennell. Thank you for the folks out there who are sending in their comments and questions, and would love to continue to address them. Would love for you to hit that like and subscribe wherever you're watching this. Would love for you to share it wherever you're watching this, and love for you to join the YouTube channel as well, so we can keep growing and we can keep helping folks out. And yeah, let's do it and keep letting our light shine. Life in transitions experts. Let your light shine. Cheers.